All right, let's move on to Atlanta, season 3. So Atlanta is finally back after a 4-year hiatus of the show. I mean, we talked about it and we did an initial review for when they dropped the first 2 episodes of the season. We have that review up on now on YouTube. But we also mentioned how everybody from this show has basically become a huge megastar. Zazie
Yep.
Beetz and Brian Tyree Henry and Lakeith Stanfield. You basically see them in every other movie. It seems like now it's like they're. I just was at the theater when I went to go see Men, and what was the trailer that premiered before this movie was the movie with Brad Pitt, Bullet Train, and who's in it? Brian Tyree Henry and Zazie Beetz. They're both in that. They You also saw Zazie Beetz and Lakeith Stanfield in The Harder They Fall, which was on Netflix. We reviewed that. So yeah, I mean they are everywhere right now. Brian Tyree Henry, he's in the MCU. He's was in Internals. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yes.
their careers are really popping off. So that's probably one of the reasons why it's been so long since we've come back for season 3. Maybe they just, Donald Glover didn't really have. Maybe he's just cultivating those ideas, getting us all together for season 3.
He's
Uh,
getting his wife pregnant again.
Oh well,
That's what
okay.
he.
Yeah, well, shout out to him. Shout out to him getting his wife pregnant. Having another kid. Shout out to him for that. And they did season 3 and 4 back to back, and season 4 will be the final season of this show. And with this season 3, it's kind of a little bit different. Yeah, finally, Atlanta has to end sometime. Um,
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
but season 3 is a little bit different than what we've come to see from past Atlanta seasons. The past Atlanta seasons, we've been noticing like with the show as it has been continuing, it's kind of gotten weirder and weirder, and have these kind of avant-garde, heightened reality type of things that we've seen pop up in different moments in seasons. Like in one episode of the past seasons, you had what was like an invisible car. There was another episode where Brian Tyree Henry, like he was seeing these different images of his parents, like of his father when he's running in the woods, and having this kind of like his own kind of episode. And with this season, they'll do like one episode where it focuses on the main cast. So you see Earn, and you see Paperboy, and you see Lakeith Stanfield character Darius, and you'll see Zazie Beetz. You'll see the main cast. But then they'll do like an anthology episode where it has nothing to do with the main cast. And they're basically he's just does his own thing there, writing wise. I call it, he's basically doing White Mirror. Donald Glover comes and just makes basically a White Mirror episode there. And
Right.
so it's been very interesting to watch. How have you liked that? You know what I mean, of them kind of doing like a one where they focus on the main cast, and one doing something that isn't related to the main story at all.
It's interesting that everyone keeps saying they're not related, but I actually think I was actually looking for like specific Easter eggs because I was like, I know this is all connected. I just don't know how. Um,
Well, actually,
actually,
yeah, well, actually, yeah, you mentioned that the ending, they show you a little bit how it's connected.
yeah, it was all. I think it's connected more by region or time. Like I'm pretty sure none of these people do things without a deliberate choice, right? We're not dealing with a director of Men where he's like, "Fuck it, YOLO." Right? Like they have a specific reason for why they do things. So, um, I absolutely love this season. I don't know why people expect um normal, I guess, or conventional story. That's a better word. I don't know why people expect conventional storytelling from Atlanta. From the first season, you should have known this was not going to be typical, your typical show. And surrealism is always a major theme in the show to begin with. So I had no problem. I was really confused why everybody was bitching about it. Actually, it was starting to get on my fucking nerves because it's like, so y'all just like it being weird enough, but really, like, what was that episode? With the Michael Jackson,
Oh, Teddy Perkins.
Teddy Perkins, yes, like that episode was weird as shit. You know what I mean? Like, completely bonkers. Like, what were y'all expecting for real? Like, haven't you gotten it through your head that they're gonna push all your boundaries of reality within a grounded sense? Like, that's why I love Atlanta, because they still know how to ground you, but they will push the boundaries because that's what it's like to be black. So, again, some of y'all are missing the point of the point of view of the characters of the story and the people writing the story. They're all, so,
Mm.
um, but this season three was amazing. The first episode, fucking, whew, I said, this is where we're going, huh? This
Uh-huh.
is what we're doing. And even this last episode, like, when I found out the name, the reference, and then I immediately got her reference, the way she was dressed, I was like, oh, okay. I'm finally getting like the resolution with this character, that she really is like. If you watch Zazie Beet's character from season one to here, you kind of can see that it was already her mental was already deteriorating. Each season, it
Mm.
was just like, all right, is somebody gonna help her? Is somebody gonna help her? Is somebody gonna help her? And this is what happens when she didn't know help,
Mm.
right? Which is a normal reaction for anyone who's trying to escape an unhappy life. But I like the way they resolved it, because they could have done more. But again, we're getting the fourth and final season, and I feel like with her character, with Van's character, uh, she she's her redemption arc is going to be nice to, because she gives such a an honest and vulnerable portrayal of that character, because that character is really messy. And we haven't really seen Van like this, because Van in the previous seasons was the person who was the logical one, right? The one who kind of grounded, Donald Glover, because he was the one who was always off somewhere. It's interesting to see those dynamics switch in this season. That was also very interesting to watch. Um, and to see him really just kind of become a shell of who he, like, this life he thought he wanted so bad, he finally got it. It's like you only want it because it allows you to kind of like stay comfortable and be the same person. There's no real evolution, which I think he's gonna spiral and lose his shit. So this season was very much just like, I feel like setting up like the kind of the climax of each character really stepping into their own authentic selves by season four. And Paperboy, again, hands down, that's my nigga. I love his character and I love how he portrays him. He's just so, I love, because he's me. He's me.
Mm.
He is, like, especially when that one episode where that white dude wasn't trying to give him his money when they was playing that poker game. Bro,
Yeah.
I was just as mad. Like, why you playing people money like that? Like, I love Paperboy because his character really represents like that kind of cultural relatability, but he's still not a one note character. Um, this I just love this season. Everything about the season I really like. So,
Mm.
How do you like it?
Well, with this season, so like I said, first starts off with this episode, this season, where it discusses Devonte Hart, which was the true story of a black child got adopted by two white lesbian women, and then a tragedy ensued with that, where it was a murder suicide situation. So that was a very interesting way to start off the season. And like you said, where is it all going? Where is it all leading to? And there's the opening of that episode kind of comes back in the final episode here, which is very interesting, and what it was kind of building towards. Having kind of these different episodes, like you see with these kind of characters, Earn, who I think a lot of points, Earn was the main character that we did follow for the first two seasons in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
with Donald Glover. And now I think with this season, he's very much relegated more to the background. I think more than he has ever been before. And even when Paperboy, when he's trying to have a discussion with him about, just a casual discussion about how things are, you know what I mean? How are you? You know what I mean? It's such an awkward conversation, and these are these are cousins. These are people who've known each other their whole lives. You know what I mean? Now they're working together. Now in more close proximity to each other than they've ever been probably in a long time. And it's such an awkward conversation, and he doesn't seem like he doesn't even know how to answer that question of how are you, how are things, because he has everything, you know what I mean. Hey, and it seems like he's better at his job now being a manager than he ever was the past couple of seasons. He seems he's learned a lot there, and then a lot of what this season in season 3 is taking place in Europe, where they are in Amsterdam. So they're not even in Atlanta. I mean, the only time you see them when they are in Atlanta is when they do these anthology episodes. So that's kind of very interesting there to kind of see that take place. And then also for a show that focuses on a rapper, I don't think I've ever seen him perform or rap. I don't think ever in the entire series. That's something very interesting too. And I think it does a wonderful job at kind of exploring all these kind of different characters. And I think more of the focus is on Brian Tyree Henry's Paperboy. I think than it was. But everybody still kind of gets their own episodes in their own time to really delve into kind of them in this. And Zazie Beetz has her moment where you finally kind of figure out what's been happening with Van, because I was kind of wondering like what the hell is going on with her. And she's pushing people in the pools, and you know what I mean, like what the fuck,
These niggas with bread.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is going on with her? But you kind of you finally kind of get the answer to that. Do you think this season is the most, how to word it? Is it the most socially conscious season that we've had so far of this show?
I would say yes, especially with that and auspicious cameo of Kevin Samuels in episode 9. And also with Chet Hanks in what episode
I think it was
5,
I think it was it? I thought it was episode 8 maybe. Was it?
Maybe it could have been. It probably was. But having Chet Hanks in there doing an accent, I think this is the most. It's hard to say because the previous 2 seasons they weren't less socially aware. They just the lens was a lot more on an interpersonal and kind of like internal level versus this season really just shows how interconnected everything is even when you're across the pond, right? So I think it just shifted how it views a lot of philosophical, political, ideological like topics and socially what they always kind of hit because it's always social. They always have some type of commentary. That's why I love the show. But they also do. I think the last few seasons are a lot more personal. This season, like how you said, even in episode 1, I believe that was his. He woke up from a dream, right? Like that was because we woke up at the end of that episode was earned to go somewhere. Which is why I was confused. Why people were like, "These are separate episodes." I'm like, no, it's literally all like, girl, what? So for me, it's just I think this really is speaking on just how things kind of haunt you, even when you're not in the same. I think that's kind of where they shifted that lens when it comes to like social issues.
Yeah. And that was episode 7. So the one with Chet Hanks was Trini to the Bone.
Trini to the Bone. But I wonder, do they know they're being parodied?
I mean, I saw Chet Hanks. I saw him. He was doing an interview with Z-Way. Do you know who Z-Way is?
No, I do not.
Oh, she does a show on HBO. It's like a talk show, like a parody talk show type of thing. And she interviewed him, and she asked him, like, do you feel guilty about anything? Do you feel like you're doing cultural appropriation? And I mean, he straight up just said, nah. You know what I mean? He's like, nah. You know what I mean? He's like, nah, social justice warriors, they on my ass, they should go away. All that stuff like that.
Boy, you what? Yo, daddy, Tom Hanks.
So I mean, that's what that's what he said. So I don't know. I mean, because you also had the episode after that called New Jazz, which had Liam Neeson on this. which they brought with the Liam Neeson being on that episode. They brought up the whole incident that he had where he talked about there was that time he was on a talk show and he talked about that his friend got raped by a black man, and so he wanted to hunt down black dudes and kill them and things like that. So there was that whole big controversy. So they mentioned that in that episode, in the New Jazz episode with Liam Neeson.
Mm-hmm.
So, that conversation, it's not like him apologizing or anything like that. It just it's a conversation of him going like, well, when he's talking to Paperboy, he's like, yeah, but I'm white. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was bad for a little bit, but I got back, and best part of being white is that I don't have to learn anything if I don't want to. Um, you
Well,
know,
did you notice the name of the club they were at?
yeah, Cancel Club. Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
the council club. I mean, Hanks. I don't think he was aware. Just like I don't think Kevin's being parodied, and they were parodying them. That's a meta. That's a shady ass meta. But I liked Liam Neeson's conversation because Liam Neeson did acknowledge though that he was like that, but I'm also gonna acknowledge the fact that I'm white and I can get away with this shit. And I think the fact that he even agreed to like play that character that way and bring that up means he's well aware of like he fucked up. He doesn't like that's the best apology you can give me because now you understand your privilege and now you really like outside of this, you know that I can expect your behavior to change, your mind to change because we're on the same level of understanding of just like why you even why you even like have these racist feelings because it was rooted in racism. He was also just upset, but I like how he played that character for real.
Mm.
Liam Neeson was awesome for that because he could have said "fuck you," you know what I mean? But I think it's a testament to the writers and a testament to what Atlanta is really trying to show us, which is layers upon layers upon layers. It's never like super black and white.
Mm.
Because Paperboy was up in there in the club.
Yeah. Uh, and so people had an issue kind of with maybe that like with Chet Hanks or the Liam Neeson cameo, maybe it's that well you're still paying them and you're still giving them attention.
They
Um,
was gonna get paid anyway.
you know what I mean? So you don't have like any like Chet Hanks being in it, and it's just like well you still he's still profiting off of being that guy that he is. You know what I mean, or anything like that.
He's gonna profit any. His daddy is Tom Hanks.
You know.
That nigga was set for life from jump. What is y'all talking about, bruh? Like sometimes people talking and it don't be making no sense because it's not rooted in reality.
Mm,
Whether Chet Hanks was on Atlanta or not, that nigga gonna still get a check. Liam Neeson just dropped a new movie I saw on Hulu. Shut the fuck up. They gonna get a check.
mm,
So that argument is moot. I'm not gonna get mad over that. What I do like is the fact, like I said, in that episode of Trini to the Bone, they was high key making fun of that nigga. That's why I wonder if he fucking knew. You know
mm,
what I mean? Like when you watch that, Atlanta ain't sitting up here saying the shit he doing okay.
mm,
On below, if you really look at that episode, it just shows that like there's appropriation and there's people who really think they Trini to the bone, even though they're not Trinidadian, but they feel that way because they grew up around it and created their own personal relationship to it.
mm,
But like just like that little white boy who was doing that, you know what I mean? To it forces you to understand that not everything starts out malicious. That little white boy wasn't malicious. He was raised, you feel me? He was raised with that culture. Are you going to then tell him that he's not part of that culture, but he does have a personal relationship with someone who influenced his life, but was a part of that culture and influenced him with that culture? You know what I mean? Like it
right.
questions. So it's just like with Chet Hanks and him showing up, I think Atlanta is forcing us to be like, but this person really, what if they really did grow culture? To me personally, you still a goofy as fuck nigga and you not Trinidadian, so please stop.
Mm,
But we can't always just write it off as appropriation when it starts to deal with people who deeply believe that's a part of their identity. Um,
yeah.
which again is fucking creepy. Like that whole episode was creepy as fuck. So I'm interested in how nobody was talking about the Kevin cameo.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can get into that one. With the Trinity, I'll say this about the Trinity to the Bone episode. And you mentioned how somebody can be just raised in that culture who's not of that culture, because it was kind of, commentary on, maids and witness of how, you had, black women who were taking care of, children, of white children, and when the parents were kind of away. And you see kind of these two parents, they're not bad parents, they're just kind of yuppie, seems like, kind of not that almost involved in the kid's life, to a heavy degree, and it's mainly on the responsibility of the maid, who's the one that's taking him to school, who's the one who's, talking to him, and really forming a connection with him. And even there was even photos, they even did a whole little photo shoot together, you know what I mean,
He
photos.
was that, bruh. That photos was the parent teacher night they missed. That they had the audacity to be like, parents miss it, and it was like, bitch, but you didn't have to. And that was a picture of her going to the parent teacher night. Even when he was getting walked down the hall, he was like, she walks me all the way to class. This bitch was gonna just stand there and let his. You feel me? Like it just shows you how literally people can use money to not fully take on the responsibility of parenting.
Mm,
But then when they question what influences their child, they leave it up to somebody else to take care of
mm, yeah.
them.
And then with the episode with Kevin Samuels, so that's the rich wigger, poor wigger episode. And this episode is kind of, it's in black and white. A lot of people, I was looking at reviews for some of the episodes, and they were mentioning that a very similarity, like a Passing, which was the movie that was directed by Rebecca Black, was directed by her, which came out on Netflix, which we reviewed for the site as well. That was a movie with Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga in it, and it was all about how this. The story was about how this, you have this black woman there, but she passes for white. You have that people who, who can, who are black but still can kind of pass for white. And this story is about kind of the same thing. Where you have this kid who's in high school, who is, even though he has a black father that you see, he's able to pass for white. Even his friends, he's got white friends. Even his friends don't know that he's, half black. And you see that Kevin Samuels, shows up in the episode, and he gives a speech to the school, and he says that I'm giving everybody a scholarship. Well, not everybody. I'm giving all the black kids a scholarship to college. Full ride, paying everything like that, and then of course, all the black kids in school, they're celebrating, and that causes the kid who's half black to go like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Who you see that he's hated his black side because he, talks in racial slurs, like when he's playing online, and things like that, and very much has tried to really, seems like, gone more with his white side. What did you think about that episode? And you mentioned that the episode was making fun of Kevin Samuels. Why do you what do you think the joke was on Kevin Samuels in the episode, and what's your opinion on the episode?
Yeah, I probably should reword that. I don't think I think they were making fun of Chet Hank for sure. I think with this episode with Kevin Samuels, um, it was really just showing how black men gatekeep blackness. How black men, especially those like Kevin Samuels, because remember it was a panel, it wasn't just him.
Yeah, George Wallace
Um,
was one of them. I don't know who
yeah,
the other
they.
dude was,
I
but
don't know either. Um, but it talks about kind of how the patriarchal structure that exists in the identity of blackness can really sit up here and you know be the final say on what it is to be black, which I think was beyond ironic and to the point of just intentional to have someone like Kevin Samuels who self professes that with his ideologies and his podcast, and people who agreed with his views. He often came off as kind of like paternal, kind of I'm here to tell y'all how you should be living your lives, right? It was the Bill Cosby 2.0. Because for some reason everybody needs a Bill Cosby. Well, not everybody. Um, or any type of male figure that could teach them their foundation for being a black man. Clearly, so it's interesting that in this episode you had somebody who had a dad, but didn't really connect. But the dad also, is just not really connecting with his son. He's not negligent. he's also just like, I'm just trying to teach you how to survive, which is most black parents, regardless of gender. That's how we're raised. We're just raised to survive. And so this kid, albeit you can relate it to passing, it's similar to the Fresh Prince, the newer version with Carlton, where he still though is the only black kid. Well, not the only black kid, but he's still in a predominantly white school. So if you play on the basketball team or play on some type of sport and you interact with these folks, you're gonna need to learn how to adapt to whiteness. So he did what he needed to do to survive high school. Could he have chosen something different? Of course, but then you're also choosing to be ostracized. Because just because they're black folks don't mean that that social group accept you just because they're black. Which you also saw play out
Mm.
in the end. So I really think this was just speaking on young folks, uh, whether you're black or mixed or passing, really just constantly having your blackness questioned and defined either by patriarchal figures within the community, by having to survive white spaces, right, and creating that identity. And of course, these are still just kids. So also viewed like how this impacts teenagers and youth who are literally still developing their brains, you know what I mean? Who will do contradictory things and do whatever they need to do to fit in. Um, and which I think is interesting why that the ending so like, oh God, this is really how it you're showing us the roots and the origins of this type of mentality that exists
Mm.
um, when it
Uh,
comes to blackness because that ending was
Um, so you mentioned like so we talked about like you said there was a panel of people. So when he says like there's going to be this scholarship that's going to be handed out full ride to all the black students, there has to be. It's not just that easy. There has to be like a trial that you have to go to where they have this open trial of like, and then he says like what's going on. The kid, the main character, and he's like, well, it's not really just. I mean, you just it's more than just like looking black. You actually have to. There's like you say what it goes into what is being black and what does that mean and blackness and what does that all entail and they're sitting there asking him a series of questions. What was some of the like they said what do you mix with Hennessy, um, and things like that. I forgot what was another question that they asked him. Uh, uh,
um
I forgot.
oh man,
I forgot
it
another.
was a couple. Yeah, it was just so rapid fire that I even, but I knew the answers to all of them. um Dang, I now want to look it up because those questions were real. Those
Yeah. Um,
Because there were some good questions being asked in that episode.
and then so I'm also reading here that the Kevin Samuels role was originally offered to Steve Harvey originally.
Oh, that would have been even better. Oh yeah, they coming for them.
Yeah. But they said that that fell through, and then they gave the role to Kevin Samuels. Stephen Glover, let's see, he's the person who works on the show. He commented on the cast and Kevin Samuels. He says, "I'm a black man, so to me, Kevin Samuels isn't that crazy. He was an old black man. I think we've all met some version of Kevin Samuels before in our lives. We probably have a family member who is Kevin Samuels." Um, mm. So yeah, I could definitely see Steve Harvey in that role. Definitely, I could definitely see that. I mean, also,
Oh
um,
yeah.
but I mean, that is, yeah. I mean, I guess I kind of see that with the casting Kevin Samuels, especially how eerie it is that this premiered and then he passed away like the week after it premiered. He passed
Yeah.
away
I know. I feel it was.
the week
Was it
before.
before?
Oh yeah, the week before.
Yeah.
Um,
It was like right around that time, and then people started watching Atlanta. I was like, oh shit, he was in the last episode. Because I
yeah.
think it was reported that he was in the last episode, but I don't think it had aired yet.
Mm,
Let me
yeah.
also look that
So yeah, that was something. Most of that was kind of really eerie. Um, yeah, and what were else like when you mentioned the final end of that episode? What were kind of your thoughts on that?
up. Man. it's funny because he's still performing.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's still a performance, especially when he interacts with actual black women, but he still has no intention of being with black women, which I think is an important message to drive home that I think a lot of people miss. Because when his ex girlfriend walked in there, she was like, "The fuck?" It was like, "Yeah, girl. Well, I'm pretty sure now you wouldn't have talked to him if he was looking and acting like this, which is why he was acting like a white kid. So can you really blame this kid for doing what children do?" Which is perform so that they're accepted by their peers. You know what I mean? But then again, now you see it is that he's not a child anymore. He's still performing because that's not really his identity. He didn't grow up like that. So it's like, regardless, he still pursues this kind of like acquisition of what he thinks people view blackness as because he has no reference for his blackness. And then that, and he also feels ashamed of his real foundation of blackness, right? Which I'm pretty sure a lot of biracial and multi folks go through. But yeah, that ending of the episode was just like, bruh, this is how it starts. This is somebody who really think this is what it is to be black.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It was just relatable enough, but still it still didn't feel authentic. Um, and he still didn't get that fucking scholarship
Yeah.
money.
And then at the end, when he gets rejected, he feel he just is so angry. He goes to burn up the school. Then he meets another person who's there to burn up the school at the same time. And that person is Well, they said, was he African or was he Jamaican or?
He was African,
Okay,
but they
yeah,
were like he wasn't black, which again, you have this absurdity specifically with Black Americans, and again those type of father figures who gatekeep what it is to be black.
yeah. And then he was another person, like you say, he was African. I think he was Nigerian, maybe.
I think
Um,
so.
and then he said like he got rejected too. And then the main character, the lead character, the one who was biracial, was mentioning how like, well, I mean, I guess yeah, that is true because you're not American black. You got roots and you got a place, a home to go back to, and things like that. So you have a specific thing that you can tie back to, and not like a traditional maybe black American there. So I guess it speaks to the diaspora between Black Americans and black people from Africa who are black, and then also other like Jamaica and so on, even in black people in Latin American countries.
What's the point? Like, what? How does them knowing their roots change the fact that they just said disenfranchised from
Right.
becoming a
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
that, like what? I would have burnt his ass too.
Uh, uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, it gets into kind of that weird thing of litmus testing. What is blackness, and what is being black, and I get, that's what the episode was all trying to show there, with that episode. Um, and then some people also mention, speaking of blackness and everything like that, um, Donald Glover, who is the creator of this show, do you think that there are some things he does in this show, like he's trying to somewhat process that, you know what I mean, or analyze that himself. Because I know he's spoken about his experiences, kind of growing up, um, maybe not feeling black enough. You know what I mean, and then people have questioned his blackness, and then him date. Is he married to a white woman, or I thought she was Asian, or
Yeah, he married to a white one.
yeah, which I'm not saying is
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's bad or anything like that. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm just bringing up what other people brought up to the conversation and things like
Well,
that.
I mean, really, what gets brought up with Donald Glover is when he used to do his stand up and he tried to play that whole "I'm a nerd" black boy that black girls didn't like, and it was like, shut the fuck up with that bullshit.
Hmm.
There's plenty of black nerdy girls. It's just the bitches you happen to win wasn't for you, right? So it was kind of just like he went through that phase and then realized. I mean, he's spoken about it and has taken it back of like, no, I realized I was saying some shit, and that's the only reason why I still fuck with him because he admitted the shit he was saying was dumb as fuck. But we also have to remember that this Atlanta isn't just written by him; it's also written by his brother. So I don't think anyone's trying to like validate their identity through the show. If anything, they're trying to show folks that there's layers, again, nuances and identities and intersections, and just again, like what the different subtle experiences of what it means to be black and exist in this world. So it's less of a confirmation and more so just like Law and Order. These are their stories. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so to me, yeah, I really don't get that. And I also think like I really wish I could interview Donald because I feel like I would ask him the right question. Because I've seen interviews of people ask questions, and it made me empathize with why he don't. Because I feel like people just don't really. People just will take that show at face value and enjoy it, but
Hmm.
really, there's just so much there that they're always like. That's why I love this show because it's able to be black and reference blackness to where we understand it, but also touch upon so many other aspects of it that are not delegated to race. And they do it so well. Like with Van's existential crises and her mental breakdown to earn, when he finally does pick this role of what he's supposed to do, he's still ain't fucking happy.
Mm.
Out of
Uh,
all the episodes, how would you like rank your favorite to least favorite?
yeah, thank you. I was just gonna ask that. I was gonna ask what your favorite episode was. Yeah. So if I had to pick a favorite episode, this is tough. I would. I think my favorite episode is the Big Payback. If I had to pick maybe a favorite episode, I would maybe go with that one. I just think that one is the most surreal, maybe the funniest. That we saw this season. And that episode, the Big Payday, dealt. It was an episode about reparations. So this was
Hmm.
a thing where that all the white people got contacted that hey, your family way back in the day owned slaves, so now you have to pay this amount of money in order to people. So I thought that was really ridiculous. There was a lot of great moments in that, especially with that one scene where that dude he was driving away and that dude was running after the car like in Get Out or something. Like that was hysterical. I died laughing at that part. That was great. And then you see the guy from the first episode that was in the opening scene. He was also in this episode talking to the main guy of that episode, where he's trying to his whole life is kind of falling apart there. Getting this news, he's like, I'm not rich. I don't have money just to, you know what I mean, just to dole out all this stuff.
True.
And then that same guy that was in the beginning of the first episode, you see show up again in the last episode. Of like, apparently he has the same name as the main as Earn, Donald Glover's character. So that's kind of very interesting there. Um, so I would say that was my favorite episode. My least favorite episode. Not to say that I don't think there was any bad episode this season, but I think Cancer Attack probably was my least favorite one. If I had to pick one, I
Mm.
think that one doesn't really stick as much. Especially there was a plot line in that episode. Maybe it'll come back later in season 4, but it didn't come back in this season because that episode was about Paperboy lost his phone. And he was
Yep.
trying to find it, and he was interviewing this guy. They were grilling him like it was like a Law and Order episode. And when he was trying to talk to him about it, grill him about it, they also had somebody who tagged along with them from a prior episode. That was the episode where they went to a party. That was the episode that the guy wouldn't give him his money. This kind of fancy party there. And it was the old man in the tree. That was that episode, and they met a guy there. And you realize he was the one that stole the phone. So that plot line didn't come back up in this season. Maybe it'll come back up later on.
I was gonna say yeah, because when I saw that, I was like, I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. Stop hanging out with that nigga, bro.
So I would say that one. So for you, what was your least and least favorite episode and most
Um,
favorite episode?
you took my favorite because I did love the Big Payback. I thought that shit was fucking hilarious, bro. Three Slaps would have to be. I think Three Slaps is the best directed, written. and emotionally impactful. Um, Especially when because it has a completely different ending, and just the way it starts. It's just a great, well made like introduction. I wish the last episode was just as strong as the first entry. The first entry really set the tone of what you were gonna get out of this season. Um, I think also I ain't gonna cap the old man in the tree like bruh, I don't like when my money's being played with, bruh. So I really felt big. I really felt Paperboy. I was like, bruh, that shit is like, where the fuck is his money? And then just the interaction with the artist and that whole conversation of like, well, maybe this white person should pay for this young artist to live,
Mm.
and them kind of scam them a little bit. That was an interesting topic to bring up, and I'm glad they did that. I guess I don't think I have a lease that I like the least. Maybe episode two. I think it would be the interrogation, just because it was so uncomfortable to watch. Um, but definitely the last episode was the most. That episode would probably be also my top five.
Mm.
Just because I love Van. I love Van's character, and I appreciate um where they're going with her character. So
Mm.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That was a great episode. The episode with Van. That was kind of fun to see what's happening with her, and you know, her kind of freak out at towards the end was also very interesting as well. Um, yeah. I really loved this season. Would you say this was the best season so far?
Okay. You said what? I'm sorry.
Would you say this was the best season so far?
Um, I definitely liked it more than season two.
Okay.
So yeah,
Mm.
I
Yeah.
definitely liked it more in season two.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
my personal, that's
Yeah.
just me.
I would need to rewatch all the seasons again to get my. I mean, this is fresh on my mind right now, seeing the season three. But a lot of interesting takes he did with this season. A lot of people coming in, different writers that were coming in with these episodes, and having these anthology type episodes were very interesting to watch. I'd love to see an anthology series from Donald Glover if he does that after Atlanta. Like I said, I'd love to see that. Like I said, make White Mirror. You know what I mean? Black Mirror's coming back. Make White
Yeah,
Mirror.
I mean, it's also a hero. I'm gonna make sure I'm always saying his name right. Um, because he's mainly the director, Hiro Murai.
Yeah.
He's the one who directs a lot of it. And I actually think I like this season because it's really mainly him. I think Donald Glover only does like two, and then they have one other director. But it seems more like cohesive in style. It
Mm.
seems a lot more mature, actually, the way this is put together. Just even from the production standpoint, if you look at the production value of the season, it really did increase, and the cinematography in here too. It's just a really well made, well crafted like season. And it's odd because it's the third season, but it just shows that it just gets better with time.
Mm.
Personally,
What rating would you give it?
I would give this a man, season three Atlanta. What a mind fuck, honestly. But I enjoyed the ride for sure. I
Hmm.
would give this a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 Google searches for a retreat and spa because I ain't gonna cap. You gonna need a break after watching this damn show.
Mm.
My brain is just done. Like I think I redefined who I am after watching this show.
Mm.
So yeah.
All right. Yeah, I would. For me, I'd give it a strong tune in. I think this show is, very great. I think, like I said, it does improve with a lot of stuff it does with the season. And I love the choices they made with this season. And I guess now they're just like, listen, we already solidified. We can just do whatever we want. And we're just gonna make whatever we want. And I like that. I like that artistic freedom that's here. So I'd give it a very, very strong tune in myself. Yeah, this was a
Tune
one.
in, my bad. That's the right one. Tune in. My
Uh,
bad.
uh, But yeah, this was a wonderful season. Discussing the wide variety of topics, social issues, involving Black people, involving different classes of people. That is very very interesting to kind of see. And I mean, yeah, it is very interesting watch. And the fact that a show like this is on network, well, not network TV, well, FX. I mean, it's on cable,
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say it's a network. It's not like one of the tried and true, but
yeah,
it's there. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this season doesn't like. I'll be surprised if it doesn't win an Emmy. To be honest,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's gonna win quite a few awards, like quite a few.